One of these verses of Bodichita in the training says, this chronic disease of constantly cherishing oneself, of the chronic disease of egoism, it is actually the cause of all the unwanted circumstances. Having recognized that this is the one to blame for all the shortcomings, bless me so I might be able to eliminate this self-grasping. The practice of Tonglen, of taking and giving. This is an incredible powerful practice, incredible powerful meditation, and the immediate result, good result that you have on training your mind on the basis of Tonglen is that you will be able to develop a very uncommon, powerful courage. You'll become really brave-hearted, very brave, so brave that that nothing will be able to shake you anymore. You become as brave as being that kind of courage that you are sure you can take upon yourself the burden of all sentient beings, and you're able to give to all sentient beings whatever they need from yourself alone. So it means that once you have acquired so much courage by training your mind, you won't be harmed by delusions anymore. Delusion arises in your mind, but you'll be able to conquer them right away. So once you have given, once you mentally, you have trained of giving, of being able to give yourself to others to that extent, the quality of your happiness will increase tremendously. It is actually the best happiness you can find. If something happens to you when you have trained your mind so much with this meditation of giving, and taking upon yourself the sufferings of sentient beings and giving out whatever goodness you have, you cannot experience anymore any loss because mentally you have given it already. So instead of encountering sufferings upon having losses, your mind becomes happier and happier. The actual meditation on taking and giving is as you should try to meditate in this way. So first of all, you just visualize yourself surrounded by all sentient beings. Then you should begin gradually. First begin with yourself. You think of your own sufferings first. The sufferings of today, the sufferings of tomorrow, the suffering of this life, the sufferings you might and then increase it with the suffering of future life and so forth until you are comfortable accepting your own sufferings ripening upon yourself. Then slowly move over to your parents, move over to your parents, move over to your kids, move over to your husband or to your wife, to your family. And then you move over, once you're comfortable with that, you increase with all your friends. Once you're comfortable with that, you increase with all your enemies. And once you're comfortable with that, you increase with all the strangers, all the human beings. Then once you're comfortable with that, you increase with all the animals, and so on and so forth. You gradually build up the strength of your courage and your meditation until you're able to embrace all sentient beings. Meditation of taking and giving. In Tibetan, actually, Tonglen means giving and taking, but from the point of view of the practice, you first take and then give. You first take upon yourself and then you give out. So once you have this, on the basis of this feeling of compassion, begin to think that all these sufferings, the sufferings of the hell beings, of cold and heat, the sufferings of hunger and thirst, of the predators and so on, each of them, for each sentient beings, think that they come out of these sentient beings like a huge black cloud. And in the nature is the sufferings of the sentient beings and the causes, all those non-virtuous actions which bring as a result that type of suffering, and they just ripen on you. They just absorb right in the center of the heart where the self-cherishing thought stays, right there, and destroys it. They think that it ripens completely everything on yourself. And by doing this, think that I'm freeing all my mother sentient beings from their sufferings. They are ripening upon me right now. Therefore, from now on, all my mother sentient beings, they will dwell in the irreversible happiness, and I myself alone am doing this. So generate a great joy at the end of your meditation of having been able to do and being able to do so. So at this point, once you have taken in this way gradually, then it is a moment of giving. Giving is done, taking is done on the basis of great compassion, wanting all sentient beings to be free from suffering. This is the meaning of compassion. So now you give with love. What is the meaning of love? Love, the wish of all sentient beings to be happy, to possess all their happiness, temporary and ultimate happiness that they wish for in accordance with their desire, exactly as they desire. By using your breath with your visualization, mounting it with love and compassion to give and to take, it will become, it becomes quite powerful and a quick method to realize the mind of enlightenment.
Bodichita is the root of all, the foundation of all practices. Without bodhicitta, none of it makes any sense. It doesn't have any power to it. There's no juice to it. No, from my experience, there's no transformative effect to meditation without developing compassion. It becomes a bit dry and ineffectual. And it creates a kind of cool detachment, which I don't think was the purpose of the Buddha's work. Ultimately, the work that is achieved through the various practices is to break down all barriers. And there's no more tangible one than breaking down the barriers to having a compassionate, open heart to all beings, insects and enemies included. To begin to approach a new kind of relationship with them, to me, really is the beginning of practice. There's a very powerful practice that, simple practice, that I started using years and years and years ago. And it was simply every creature that I met, whether it was a person, an insect, whatever it may be, the first thought that I allowed myself to generate towards that other being was, I wish you happiness. Very simple thing, but make sure that the very first thought you have is, I wish you happiness. And how that totally transforms what happens after that point with this other person. This is my own experience. I see this very clearly. Now, sometimes it's extremely difficult. You're faced with an enemy, you're faced with an immediate physical situation where something is in your face. It becomes very difficult. That's where the meditative process of being able to stop the arisal of an afflictive emotion becomes really important. That there is an immediate space that you can create where you can see it arise. And before it actually takes you over, you're able to transform it. Okay, see it for what it is. That this is ignorance being manifest. This anger is nothing more than ignorance. From my side and their side. Transform it, let it go. Transform it, turn it into love. I wish you happiness. If you just try that, what an extraordinary difference everything makes.
Giving birth is an amazing experience, and for me the pain was so intense that it really allowed my mind to focus in a way that I very rarely, if ever, can otherwise. And so during the process of birth, when a contraction would come and it would just be so intense and so painful, that was really the only time I've ever been able to practice Tonglen in a way that I felt like it was really powerful, and it was really affecting my mind, and it was the only thing that allowed my mind to get through that process. Because if I would freak out and lose concentration for a minute, the pain would just be so overwhelming I couldn't handle it. But then if I could just think of all the others out there who had either experienced that kind of pain in similar situations or the numerous other kinds of pain that people are experiencing all the time. And I could think of trying to take on their suffering and to experience it and take it away from them in what I was feeling. It somehow helped to keep it much more focused, and it helped to keep it bearable. I got a tiny taste during that process of how powerful Tonglen can be, and how amazing. Like, if you really practice that all the time, and or as a regular daily practice even, it would just change how you viewed the world so much. And then I think as a parent, you start to get a little opportunity to do that in the waking time. It's probably in practice, in being around my daughter, that's probably the only time really that I'll have a desire and she'll have an opposing desire, and I'll give in and do what she needs before I'll do what I need. And so it's nice to see that. And it's amazing to imagine what it would be like to have that feeling towards every other being, you know, on the planet. And you can see some of these teachers that do have that feeling towards every being on the planet, and it's amazing.